You're telling him to smile? Are you telling Adam?
Should I?
We should all.
Recording in progress.
Here it comes.
There we go.
Chair Bnetter, we're ready to begin.
Thank you. Welcome to this regular meeting of the Planning Commission this Tuesday evening, December the 12th. I now call this meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ashley, can we please have the roll call?
Yes, Chair Bnetter,
Present?
Vice Chair Patel,
Present.
Commissioner Nugent,
Present.
Commissioner Wiggins,
Present.
and Commissioner Williams.
Present.
It is noted that Commissioner Nugent is joining remotely from the office of 1010 West Camino Sagasta, Green Valley, Arizona, 85622, where an agenda has also been posted. This regular meeting is conference ID 826-5819-3638 and use passcode 862978. Good evening and welcome. We are excited to be here in person with options for virtual participation. For those attending in person, please complete a yellow request to slip and hand it to the clerk. If participating remotely, use the raise your hand feature in Zoom and you will be called on at the appropriate time. If calling in via phone, press star 9 to raise your hand, and when called upon, press star 6 to unmute. These options for public comment will remain available until I close the public comment period for that specific item. And finally, we welcome speakers providing public comment, but please be advised this is a limited public forum. As such, speakers must stay on topic if speaking to a particular agenda item. If speakers fail to follow these rules, they will be warned, and if they continue to disregard our rules, their opportunity to speak will be ended. Ashley, could you please read the consent calendar?
Yes. Item number 1, Planning Commission meeting minutes approval. Approve the minutes of the special meetings of September 12th, 2023, September 26th, 2023, and October 5th, 2023. Approve the minutes of the regular meeting of October 10th, 2023, and October 24th, 2023.
Thank you. If there are any members of the commission who would like to pull either of these items from the consent calendar, please do so now.
I would like to.
Okay?
Should I make my comment now?
Yes.
I think that the meeting minutes of October 24th should note that there were clarifying questions about when the objective design standards are to be utilized. And I don't think that, I don't feel like it's clear in the meeting minutes that we discussed that. And I think it's important for the public to understand that,
Okay.
or for the record, to have that on the record.
Okay. So how do we make that part of the record, or do we need to vote on that?
Through the chair, good evening, Manira Sandhi, Planning Manager. Yes, if the commissioner could make a motion to amend the minutes and specify where that would be added, then the commission as a whole can vote on that motion. Oh, or you could take out that minutes, that specific meeting minutes, and consider it separately and vote on the rest of the consent calendar items?
Should we just delay that portion of the consent calendar until the next meeting and get you a written comment on what the changes would be?
Good evening, Mazarine Vicaria, Assistant City Attorney. It's really up to the commission on how they want to handle this, but it may be cleaner to take the October 24th minutes out of the motion, have comment today, and then have staff bring that back in a later meeting.
Okay.
And then all the remaining ones can just stay on the consent calendar.
Yes, that's correct.
That works for me.
Okay. If any members of the public wish to comment on any consent calendar item, now would be the time to make your comment. This is for consent calendar items only. Okay. Nobody online, Ashley?
Chair Nutter, we don't have any public commenters at this time.
Thank you. So would anyone like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar with the comments by Margaret this evening?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar without the meeting minutes of October 24th, 2023.
I'll second that.
Chair Nutter, would you like to take a vote?
Yes.
Chair Nutter?
Yes.
Vice Chair Patel?
Yes.
Commissioner Nugent?
Yes.
Commissioner Wiggins?
Yes.
And Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is public comment. Members of the public wishing to comment on any item not appearing on the agenda may address the Planning Commission at this time. State law prevents the commission from taking any action on any matter not on the agenda. Your comments may be referred to staff for follow-up. Public comment is generally limited to a total of 15 minutes. However, that is subject to the commissioner's discretion and can be extended if the commission wishes to do so. So we now open up the public comment period for anything not on the agenda.
For something not on the agenda? Right. It's more question. My name is Steve Dukas.
Okay, you can go ahead and speak.
My first comment is, I started coming to this door and the sign said go to the other door, and we were sitting over there and the door's closed and it's cold. So maybe move the sign over. That'd be great. I received in the mail a proposed facility for a wireless permit. And I don't see it on this calendar, but I wanted to come and speak to you anyway because I'm not sure where I would go to get information about it. I'm opposed to it, of course, and that's the only reason I came down here. Is this the right place, the right time? City Attorney?
One second. Go ahead.
Through the chair, there is a Sustainability and Infrastructure Commission meeting tomorrow on that topic, and the member of the public can reach out to Public Works staff on that topic as well. I'm happy to connect with them separately to give them my contact and Public Works team's contact.
I think I heard tomorrow. Okay, see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
If anyone on Zoom wants to comment, general public comment, please raise your hand at this time. Chair Nutter, we have no more public commenters. We have no more public commenters at this time.
Okay, we'll close that item and move on to our next item. Do you want to introduce the item, Ashley? Item 2?
Yes, 477 9th Avenue, new 5-story mixed-use building, PA 2022-047.
Thank you. We will start with the staff presentation, followed by applicant presentation, clarifying questions from the commission, and public comments. The applicant will be given up to 15 minutes to present, and members of the public are given 2 to 3 minutes to speak, depending on the number of speakers. The applicant may also be given 5 minutes at the end to respond to the public comments. Once the public hearing is closed, the chair may ask staff to respond to any public comments, and the commission will deliberate and render a decision. Finally, if a decision is made tonight, the decision of the Planning Commission can be appealed to the City Council within 10 calendar days. And our presenter tonight will be Rendell, Linda. Oh, okay.
Thank you, Chair Ebenetter. Good evening, everyone, and members of the Planning Commission. Linda Lee, Associate Planner, presenting on Agenda Item 2, Public Hearing for 477 9th Avenue, a new 5-story mixed-use building. Tonight's presentation will provide a general project overview, including history, location, project description, entitlements, and other relevant background information. To summarize the project's history, the applicant first filed the pre-application on January 14th, 2022. It also consisted of an SB 330 filing. The project also held the required neighborhood meeting and a Planning Commission study session during this time. At the study session, the Commission provided feedback on the building design and expressed the need for more family-sized units. The applicant then filed the formal planning application in July of 2022, and during this time, they have further refined the building design, site plan, and density bonus requests. Environmental review was also completed and included various technical studies such as air quality, traffic, noise, and vibration. This item was originally scheduled on November 28th, but was canceled by the request of the applicant, bringing us to tonight, December 12th meeting. The project is located at the northwest corner of 9th Avenue and South Claremont Street, shown on this map in yellow. This map also shows the downtown core and adjacent rail corridor to the west of the project site. The downtown Caltrain station, shown in red, is about a half mile north of the project site. The site consists of one parcel that is approximately 1.6 acre in size. The site has a general plan land use designation of executive office and is zoned E2-2 for executive offices with a maximum floor area ratio of 2. The site is currently developed with an existing 1-story office structure and surface parking lot. There are a variety of uses surrounding the site as shown in these photos. They include a 2-story auto service shop directly west on South Claremont Street, the Caltrain rail corridor on the west, commercial and residential uses on the south along 9th Avenue, and offices to the north. The project before you is a 5-story mixed-use building that is 209,204 square feet in size. The first and second floor consists of 29,207 square feet of office uses, lobbies, and parking facilities. 120 residential units are proposed on the 3rd to 5th floors. Of the units proposed, 15% of the base density, or 12 units, will be made affordable at the very low income level. The current proposed unit mix is 24 studios, 64 one-bedroom, and 32 two-bedroom units. The project includes 2 levels of above-grade parking located within the rear portion of the building. This includes parking for 48 office stalls and 120 residential stalls. The site also has a 2-way driveway with access from both South Claremont Street and 9th Avenue. As proposed, the project requires the following planning entitlements. First, a special use permit to allow residential uses in a non-residential zone without a residential overlay. Second is a site plan and architectural review for proposed new building. And lastly, a site development planning application for the removal of 32 trees, including 7 protected trees. The project also proposes a combination of replacement tree planting and payment of in lieu fees for the trees removed. Prior to tonight's meeting, a public notice was mailed to all constituents located within 1,000 feet radius of the project site. A placard was also placed on site, and the project was publicized in the city's planning e-newsletter and interested parties list. The packet includes all public comments received since June of 2022. Comments were generally supportive of the proposed architectural style and creation of new housing, including BMR units. Concerns were raised on tree removal and tree preservation efforts, consideration of sustainable construction practices for demolition debris, incorporating more family-sized units and amenities, and parking. Staff also received general comments not specific to the project, but related to overall downtown development and concern for resulting traffic. Since the publishing of the packet, there were 3 comments received, which were all in support of the project. Next, staff will cover the various code and policies that apply to the project locally, as well as state laws, affordable housing, design review, and environmental review. Beginning with general plan, the project was reviewed according to its land use and zoning designation of Executive Office E2-2. This table shows the list of development standards that apply to the project for floor area, residential density, building height, setbacks, and bicycle parking. The project complies with all the objective standards, with the exception of floor area ratio and at-grade open space, which the applicant requests to modify through the state density bonus law. This will be covered in the coming slides. For local policy documents, the project is subject to the downtown area plan and is located within the South Claremont sub-area. Goals and policies include enhanced visual and pedestrian connections to link the project site to the downtown core. The pedestrian master plan also provides recommendations to improve the public realm, with minimum sidewalk widths and streetscape improvements. As listed here, the project does not provide the minimum 16-foot wide sidewalks along both project frontages. However, it should be noted that the zoning code, which supersedes the pedestrian master plan, requires a minimum setback of 7.5 feet, which the project meets. The project does provide the minimum landscape and through zones, and the proposed sidewalk widths currently exceed existing sidewalk conditions. Lastly, the bicycle master plan lists infrastructure improvements to support bicycle use throughout the city. For this project, there is an existing bike lane on South Claremont Street, and a bike boulevard is called for along the 9th Avenue frontage. The project is conditioned to provide pavement markings for the separated and shared bike lanes. Lastly, the project proposes 12 short-term and 132 long-term bike parking facilities, which meets the city's minimum bike parking requirements. For state laws, it is important to note that the project is subject to the Housing Accountability Act, or HAA, since it proposes at least 2/3 of residential square footage. HAA limits the city from denying or reducing the density when all objective development standards are met. Secondly, the project also submitted a preliminary housing application under the Housing Crisis Act, or Senate Bill SB 330. This prohibits the city from conducting more than 5 public hearings and imposing ordinances and standards adopted after the filing date. Lastly, the project is subject to Assembly Bill AB 2097, which removes minimum parking requirements and parking in lieu fee payments for projects located within a half-mile radius of a major public transit stop. This project qualifies given its proximity to the downtown Caltrain station. The project also submitted a state density bonus request to increase their base density from 80 units to 120 units total. This 50% density bonus is allowed based on the project's provision of 15% or 12 units as affordable at the very low income category. The project may also request unlimited waivers and up to 3 concessions. The applicant has requested 1 waiver to increase the floor area ratio, or FAR, from 2.0 to 3, along with 2 concessions to reduce at-grade open space requirements and increase the number of compact stalls allowed within the project. Since the release of the agenda packet, the applicant further modified their BMR unit mix to 2 studios, 5 one-bedroom, and 5 two-bedroom units. For design review, the project is subject to the goals and policies of the general plan urban design element. All applicable policies are outlined in attachment 1, but at a high level, the overall design is Spanish Revival, as it includes traditional elements and contemporary materials. That includes stone, cement wall exteriors, tile roof, and bronze metal details throughout. As noted previously, the Planning Commission reviewed the pre-application and provided input on the design in May of 2022, with comments focused on a more authentic Spanish-style building and improving each facade. Staff and the city's architectural design consultant, Larry Cannon, also provided design review comments. Since the study session, the applicant has incorporated changes that include Spanish-style art as accents along the ground floor openings, a refined tower element, neutral colors throughout the buildings, and prominent corner treatments to provide visual interest on all of the facades. Lastly, the city reviewed the project in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, and have determined that the project meets the criteria to be categorically exempt pursuant to section 15332 as an infill development project. Supporting evidence is provided in a categorical exemption memo prepared by the city's environmental review consultant, David J. Powers. The project, as conditioned, would not result in any significant effects related to traffic, air, or water quality. As part of the environmental review, staff's transportation consultant, Fear and Peers, prepared a traffic or transportation impact analysis, or TIA, analyzing the project's impact to traffic. The TIA finds that in accordance with CEQA, the project does not result in any impact to vehicle miles traveled, or VMT, since it meets the city screening criteria in a high quality transit area. In addition, the TIA analyzed the project's level of service, or LOS, under the general plan requirements, and finds that the project does not result in any adverse impacts to LOS. The project does result in net new AM and PM peak trips, as well as an increase in average daily trips. To conclude, the analysis finds that the project does not cause significant impacts in opening year and cumulative conditions for traffic volumes. This analysis accounts for the project in addition to nearby approved and pending development projects. Given the project's increase in average daily trips, the project is required to implement a transportation demand management TDM plan for a minimum 25% trip reduction. The city's consultant steer group has prepared a TDM plan that describes the project's required measure. This includes an on-site TDM coordinator, bike support facilities, and transportation incentives that include annual subsidies to Samtrans and Caltrain. These TDM measures are estimated to reach a 28.5 trip reduction by incentivizing transit and bike usage for future tenants, employees, and residents. Prior to concluding with staff's recommendation, staff would also like to note one edit proposed to the resolution. This is the addition of a new condition of approval as shown here on this slide. This condition is consistent with the city's BMR inclusionary housing program requirements and provides the applicant advance information on the city's BMR requirements prior to officially entering into an agreement with the city's housing division. Should the commission adopt staff's recommendation, the resolution would be updated with this new condition prior to signature. With that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution to approve the project's special use permit, site plan and architectural review, and site development planning application, and find that the project is categorically exempt from CEQA based on the finding and subject to the conditions of approval as amended. This concludes staff's presentation. Questions are welcome. The applicant is also here and will be providing a presentation tonight as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Can we have the applicant presentation, please?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Good evening, Honorable Commissioners. Great to be here again with you this evening. My name is Stephen Siri, Principal with the Martin Group. We are the developer for the project. We've been working really hard the last 2 years with city staff and in response to several of our public meetings, including our last one with the Commission in May. Taking into account a lot of great feedback and comments, so we're excited to showcase some of that with you tonight. Quick reminder, the Martin Group, we're a family-owned business. We've been in the real estate development business here in the Bay Area for about 39 years. We specialize in mixed-use projects, workforce housing, student housing. We are passionate about solving the Bay Area housing crisis. We've partnered with BD Architects and the Gazzardo Partnership, our architect and landscape architect, who have previous experience in San Mateo. Just as a quick reminder on the site shown on the left, our project name, Arbello, which ties to the exterior architecture and brand, is a short 10-minute walk, approximately half a mile from the Caltrain station. Future tenants will benefit from this downtown location, walking into offices and retail, local retail. Just on a few project statistics, what we think makes our project unique is our balanced growth approach of adding new housing, maintaining some of the existing office in terms of square footage, and then increasing that, so balanced housing and jobs. 120 residential units, including studios, 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms, and then 12 affordable units at the very low income level. Just of note that that is a deeper level of affordability than the city standard. We'll include 29,000 square feet of office on the first 2 levels. There are 150 parking stalls split amongst the office and residential as shown here. And then 144 bicycle parking spaces. The transit-oriented nature of this project, we think will be very good for promoting bicycle and pedestrian uses. Here's the photo of the existing condition which had been showed. It's a 1-story office building in a surface parking lot. You know, I'm sorry, I think that, there's a slide that's missing, okay. Here's a view of the site plan. So as you can see along South Claremont and then 9th Street, there's 2 forms of vehicle ingress and egress access points, which we think will help manage traffic flow. On the right-hand side, you can see it with 9th Street. We have a large public plaza area that plays off an existing heritage tree that we are committed to preserving, that we think will be very important for the project's design and architecture. And then in the center of the site plan here, you can see our courtyard area. This will be on the 3rd level for residential usage, includes outdoor socializing areas, places that people can work from home. And then on the 5th floor, we have a rooftop deck that'll have nice southern exposure and views. Here's a few landscape elevations that just depict the pedestrian connection along the city's sidewalks with some of the existing trees that will be preserved and then new trees as they mature. We've included here some landscape imagery showcasing some of the seating, architectural landscape elements that will be incorporated into the project, as well as bicycle parking, which is very important. This next slide is just to help break up the various 5 levels of the project. So in red, color-coded, it will be commercial office. Gray is the parking garage. And then yellow is residential units, and blue is residential amenity areas. So on the first floor, we have a mix of office, residential amenities, and then parking that is separated for commercial as well as residential. As we move to the second level, we have another level of commercial office, the second level of garage parking that will be for residents only at this level. And then on the blue, we have some residential amenities, a future gym for fitness, mental health, wellness that's very important to incorporate for our residents. On the third level, 3rd through 5th level, these are exemplary because the units stack. So the unit types on this 3rd floor will rise up together. We have a large common area clubhouse space that is showcased in blue there, which will be a great area for people that are working from home or socializing, as well as resident events that then opens up into the courtyard area. And with that, I'd like to invite up our architect here to describe a little bit further some of the elements of the architecture.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Nathan Simpson. I'm the designer of the project and one of the principals at BDE Architecture. I also have with me Hamza Salmi tonight, who is our project manager for the project, so he knows probably more of the building than I do at this point, but yeah, both of us. So inside and out, we have the building. This first image you're looking at today is the main frontage along 9th Avenue, and some of the main edits we did on the building, Linda, thank you very much for summarizing them. To elaborate, the color palette was simplified, so we used to have 3 colors, now we're down to 2 colors. Those colors are now a stronger contrast between a warmer palette that's light gray, and then it's a dark gray that's basically a dark bronze, if you really want to get technical. And then with those color palettes, we were able to emphasize the base, middle, top still, since we simplified the colors. And by doing that, we also used trim at each level and at windows to help articulate that base, middle, top. And then one of the things that you'll see around the whole building, especially on the back sides of the building, is we simplified the roof forms, mainly by using gable roofs and mansard roofs, which will slope outwards, which reduces the height of the building. And as we reduced the height of the building, some of the other items we reduced height in was the corner tower element. And we also reduced a little bit of height around the back of the building and front of the building on Claremont. As we go around here, this is the main corner of the building. This has now been revised to have a Juliet balcony that's more of a wood detailed traditional frontage. The rails will likely be made in metal, but they could also be detailed out in hardy trim or wood for real. That would actually just be painted and preserved because it's covered. And then one of the main things on this is the trees covered up a little bit on this scene. I'll switch back real quick. Is the main frontages to the building have all been highlighted by one single arch. This simplified the design, made it a little bit more impactful, and also let us introduce a art element to the 2 main entries. So the residential entry on 9th Avenue and the office entry on Claremont are very similar, if not exactly the same, and both will have a tile art element added to it. Other elements on this I want to just emphasize is on our previous design, the windows on the top floor were exactly the same as the two middle floors, and instead we've actually created more variation in that, which will further emphasize the base middle top of the building. Going around the project, that main corner element that was mentioned earlier, you can see that's been wrapped over to the secondary sides of the building. To the right of this image is the Social Security building, which is a more modern building. Our building, still going with the more Spanish style, which we feel, the city, Larry Cannon, everyone seems to be on board with, is still very appropriate. From this view, you can still see this base middle top emphasis. You can see similar architectural elements that are now wrapping around to the side, and the next image will show the back of the building. Some of those elements you'll see are the double stacked windows in the middle. You'll also see the different sized windows on the top floor. There's also balconies on the top floors that are similar to the front and sides. And then going around to the back, this is where you'll see the roof lines have really been simplified by using mansard roofs. This lowered the perceived height of the building by about 4 feet, plus that tower that you can see on the right has been lowered about 6 to 8 feet. So the overall height of the building's been reduced. The colors have been simplified and warmed up, which makes it a little bit more timeless. And then we've also worked heavily on these back sides of the building to really add in more glazing, more design elements that look similar to the front of the building. That way, if you're on the train or looking from downtown, it still looks like the same building versus the back of the building. And with that, I believe we are done. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. So now it's time for any clarifying questions for either staff or the applicant at this point. And Adam, if you could start, please.
Thank you. I actually do not have any clarifying questions, so I'll pass it on to the next commissioner.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff and or the applicant?
I have a couple questions. I guess I wanted to hear, this is probably for staff, I guess, just there was a comment made that the very low income units are, over and above the requirements of the city standard. And I'm just wondering, what exactly is the difference? Like, what's the percentage difference, I guess? Who can tell me that?
Sure, I can, through the chair, if you guys can hear me.
Yep.
Yeah, so the previous BMR unit mix was 2 studios, 7 1-bedroom, and 3 2-bedroom. And so they've modified it by taking 2 from the 1-bedroom and increasing it to the 2. So it's now 2, 5, and 5. So we're getting more of the larger size units as BMR, or 2 additional. It would be the same total number of BMR units.
Okay. Is the very low income unit, though, different than what is required normally? Or, I mean, what we typically see? What is the percentage? Not the percentage, but what is the definition of the very low income unit?
Can you clarify if you're asking about the income level?
The what? I'm sorry.
The income level
Yes.
from very low.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, so I wonder if rental or, yeah, go ahead.
Through the chair, perhaps I could take a stab at that. So the very low income, my understanding is typically 30 to 50% of AMI, and the applicant is still at 15% of the total units being the very low income. However, the difference is in the unit mix. So typically, when city staff looks at the number of units that are being provided, we want an equal proportion of the bedroom types that is provided for the market rate units. But in this case, the applicant is providing additional family style units, which has been a stated goal of the city, that we want to see more family style units in our multifamily projects.
Okay, thanks. I wasn't sure, because there was a comment, I wasn't sure if there was something different that I wasn't understanding. So thank you for clarifying that, both of you. The other question that I feel like it would be helpful to have a reminder of is related to the trees. So could we pull up a plan? And I guess I would just like to get a visual of, is it just one heritage tree that's remaining and the rest are being removed? I mean, maybe I don't need a plan. Maybe that's the question.
Should I go?
Yes, please, Ryan. Thank you.
Yeah. Good evening. My name is Marco Lay. I'm with the Gazzato Partnership Landscape Architects for this project. So for this project, we're saving two very mature sized heritage trees. One is a valley oak on Claremont, and the other one is a coast-side oak facing 9th Avenue. It's the one that's kind of planned north in the middle of the site. That's a valley oak, and then planned east of the site, in the middle of the site, that's the coast-side oak that we're saving. And besides that, we're also saving 6 silver dollar gum on the planned west side of the property. Those are also mature sized trees, and also one Chinese elm along the Caltrans, the parking strip on the planned south side.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I was interpreting everything correctly. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you. Seema?
Thank you, Chair. I have a few questions. My first is about parking. So the project proposes to build 141 parking spaces, if I remember correctly, 29 office and 112 residential. I believe at the study session, we had asked about whether those uses could be shared. I feel like that's something that's come up quite a lot, is that office spaces tend to be occupied during the day, residential spaces tend to be occupied during the night, and so you can get some efficiencies if you allow shared uses between the two. And I believe since the study session, we've changed some of our regulations in the city to make it easier to share between the uses. But I think I heard the applicant state that those spaces would be kept separate, and so I just wanted to confirm that and ask if you had considered allowing sharing between the two uses.
Thank you. Yeah, good question. Just to clarify, there's 38 office parking stalls and then 112 for the residential. Currently, the plan is to keep those separate, just being that there's different uses. The office kind of comes and goes during the day, and then the residential for overnight to have another form of security. You know, over time, we could always look at sharing the uses. However, just in the past experience with that, with other projects, sometimes the coordination and management of that can be a little bit difficult, and ensuring that the residents actually leave before, you know, people are arriving at the office. Different people work different hours. So we did look into that, but for the time being, we thought it was best to keep them separate.
Thank you. I actually think my next question might be for you too, which is I was wondering if you could speak about the timeline between demolition and construction. We received a lot of public comments asking whether there will be a large gap between demolition and the start of construction. And I was wondering if you could speak to that.
Yeah, good question. Our plan is to pull the demolition and building permit at the same time. So there would be no gap.
Great, thank you. And I have one more question, which I think is also for you. If I understand correctly from the tree plan, it calls out preserving the eucalyptus trees along the railroad. Is that correct?
Yeah, Marco, if you're still there, you can probably speak to that. There are some trees along that end that are actually on a different property. Marco, anything you want to add to that?
Correct. All the trees that is on the separate side, on the other side of the property line we're preserving. Our project will not touch those. So basically it's all the trees along the railroad side beyond our property line. And the silver dollar gum eucalyptus, it's actually on the six trees that we're saving. It's also on the planned west side. There are 6 of them kind of straddling the property line.
Got it. So those eucalyptus trees are outside your property line, if I understand correctly. Great.
Correct. They are outside of the property line.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you.
None for me.
Okay, I had just a couple of quick ones. I think on one of the floor plans, it shows the exiting for floors 3 through 5. Both exits are on the same side of the building, and I believe it's an alternative means and method. And I'm curious why they were placed on the same side and not diagonal from one another, which we typically see for exits.
Do you want to take that one, Hamza?
So you're allowed to do that. We're proposing 2 horizontal exits in addition to the 2 stairs that are located on the south side. So that will allow you to have that horizontal exit to provide a mean of exit on the northern side of the building.
Okay. It seemed different than what we usually see, where you usually have them spread diagonally from one another instead of on the same side.
The code requires a third of the distance be met, which we're meeting that in terms of code requirement.
Okay. Then one other minor question. I know there's some foam trim that is being used on the exterior of the building, and then I believe it is going to be covered with plaster or plaster finish. Yet in the objective design standards, I don't know if foam was something that had been decided to be used, but I think this is a great example of if it's not in the objective design standard, we should incorporate it. I don't know exactly how the materials ended up, but.
We'll have to check. I'll have to check, although this project is not subject to those objective design standards because they're not yet in effect. But as you stated, this could be a good example to consider.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from the commission? Then at this point, we'll go to the public comments, please.
If there are any public commenters in the audience and you haven't given me a speaker slip, please do so now. And online, if you want to speak, please raise your hand at this time. Chair Nutter, we currently have 11 speakers, so we'll do 2 minutes each per speaker.
Great.
And our first speaker is going to be in the audience. Thomas Makara, you can come up to the microphone.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Thomas McCarran and I am 8 years old. I love the trees in San Mateo, especially the heritage trees because they are so majestic. What I have been noticing is that as many of the new buildings go up, these trees go down. Can you please find a way to make sure these beautiful heritage trees are safe for my generation and future generations to enjoy? Trees are good for the earth and good for people. Please save the trees of San Mateo. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas.
Michelle McCara, you can come up to the microphone now.
Thank you, commissioners. As my son said, we love the trees here in San Mateo, and I just noticed when I heard that there were 32 trees that were going to be taken out and 7 of them heritage trees, it kind of took my breath away a little bit, and I had to go down to the property just to take a look and see what trees were going to be taken out. There are 3 oak trees at the on the 9th side end of the property. It looks like they're going to be saving 1, but there are 2 additional oak trees that are next to it that are beautiful And these trees take a very long time to grow. They actually don't produce acorns until they're 20 years or older. And I'm wondering, since a lot of the trees that are heritage trees that are on the perimeter, they're on the perimeter of the building or the site, I'm wondering why they can't be saved. Here's another tree that's on the corner of 9th and Claremont that's going to be taken out. Beautiful tree, and there's like a grove of olive trees behind it. I understand the olive trees would be hard to save, but this is on the corner. I don't know why that can't be saved. There's also a tree that's in the back of the property. I think it might be an oak, but I'm not sure. This tree is going to be taken out as well. So I'm just wondering, these are all, like this is right next to the fence. I'm just wondering, can there be a plan made to maybe incorporate these trees and let them stay? Because as you know, once you take these trees out, you can't get them back. And they really change the landscape. And trees are so good for everyone. And, you know, I've gone onto the Arbor Day Foundation site, and there's so many bulletins just talking about solving urban issues with trees, trees and public health, how trees can save energy, how trees can retain stormwater runoff. There's an article on how to save trees during construction. So a lot of good insight and learnings to be made, but I just think, you know, once we start setting precedents and letting all of these trees be taken out, we know there's a lot of new construction that's going to be happening. It's going to continue to happen, and we won't have our heritage trees any longer. So please save the heritage trees and all the trees that we can in San Mateo. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Our next speaker is J. Anthony Minovar. Come up to the microphone.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Planning Commission. My name is J. Anthony Minovar. I'm a field rep for Local 217, Carpenters Union in San Mateo County. This development has the potential to be more than just bricks and mortar. It can be a beacon of responsible business practices and community engagement. We believe in partnering with a contractor that upholds values we hold dear, paying a livable wage. This is just not about constructing buildings. It's about constructing lives, ensuring that those who dedicate their time and skill to this project can sustain themselves and their families. Healthcare is not just a perk. It's a fundamental right. We urge the Commission to consider a contractor willing to provide comprehensive healthcare coverage, acknowledging that a healthy workforce is a productive one. A responsible contractor looks beyond profits, recognizing the interconnectedness of a worker's well-being and the success of the project. The 477 9th Avenue project offers an opportunity to set a standard demonstrating that responsible business practices are not merely a choice, but a necessity. By choosing a contractor committed to fair wage and health care, we are not only investing in the project, but also in the prosperity and the resilience of our community. In the eyes of the union carpenters, this isn't just about construction. It's about collaborating. It's about creating a space where not only buildings rise, but where the livelihoods of workers and their families are uplifted. Let this project be a testament to San Mateo, commitment to responsible development, setting an example for others to follow. Thank you for your time and consideration. We look forward to witnessing a project that not only builds structures, but builds a stronger, healthier, and more equitable community for us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay Anthony.
Our next speaker is Maureen Killo. Maureen, you can come up to the microphone.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Planning Commission. I couldn't agree more about the trees, and if there's any way that we can have some respect for nature, which serves us, I'm behind that all the way, so I'd like to add that to my comment. I really love the Spanish Revival architecture design, and I love the half-moon windows that they have and the neutral colors, the terracotta tile roof, the metal details, recessed window, the Juliet balconies, and the tiled arches. And this is such a refreshing change from the glass boxes that we've seen in recent proposals. So we'd really love to see more authentic Spanish Revival designs like this project. And it's really good to see the 32 two-bedroom units and the 12 BMRs. We also noticed that there are 24 studios and 64 one-bedrooms. We'd like more stability in our neighborhood with less transitory move-ins and move-outs with the smaller units. Do you think the Martin Group can have a few three-bedroom units by combining some of the one-bedroom units with some studios? We'd like to see the tenants stay longer. And finally, the mini dog park, the fitness center, the club area, and the open-air roof deck amenities all look very nice. Could the club area or meeting room be accessible by chance for our neighborhood meetings and or other community usage? Meeting spaces are very hard to come by. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen.
Our next speaker is David Light. David, you can come up to the microphone.
Good evening, Chairman Ebneter and members of the commission. My name is David Light. I live on Fremont Street, which is pretty close to this project. Other people have commented on the fact that 32 trees are going to be removed and 7 are heritage trees, and we need trees more than ever these days. And so the mature trees should certainly be saved if possible. And at a minimum, all the trees should be replaced with established taller trees. And also, please do not remove these trees until the construction permits are actually issued and the financing is secured and there are assurances that the project is going to be built, because for other projects in the past, all the trees were removed and now we have an empty block just sitting empty. I also want to comment on parking. There are 153 on-site parking spaces, or the numbers I have are 112 for residents and 41 for offices, but I just heard that I think it's now 38 for office workers. This parking for 29,207 square feet of office space seems low if you calculate 150 square feet for each worker, which equates to at least 195 workers. So that's only one parking space for every 4 to 5 workers. Many businesses may not be able to provide Caltrain passes for their workers, and so please consider commuter passes for the office workers, and also will the businesses provide Uber or Lyft passes for workers who work late? And finally, how will parking overflows into the neighborhood be handled if there's not enough on-site parking for the office workers and residents? I'm very happy to see that there's 132 long-term and 12 short-term bicycle parking on the first level for office and residential use. I'm a bicycle rider myself, and I'd like to see the short-term bicycle parking increased by at least 3 spaces. And finally, the minimum 25% TDM requirement by the CCAG seems very low to reduce traffic congestion on our streets in the downtown. And I think that should be revisited. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Our next speaker is Lori Watanuki. Lori can come to the microphone.
Good evening, Chairman Ebenetter and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Lori Watanuki. We were wondering why only 4 projects were mentioned in the traffic analysis. The 4 were Kiku Crossing Residential, Block 21, the Windy Hill project on 3rd Avenue, and Dragers. It's important to include all recently approved projects. These other projects may impact the AM and the PM readings in the future. The intersections at 3rd and 4th were not analyzed, but 5th in South Claremont and 9th in South Claremont were analyzed. The traffic may be coming down these 2 streets, and that's 5th and 9th. We noted 9th in Claremont will increase to low E during AM peak hours. We need to get our traffic circles and our speed humps installed along 5th and 9th Avenues between Delaware and Amphlett before the Kiku Crossing garage opens, and it's going to be in a few weeks. There are 2 driveways on South Claremont and on 9th Avenue, and they're going in 2 different directions, which I think is good. We would like to see the traffic at the 9th Avenue exit to El Camino Real, since 5th and Humboldt and 4th and Humboldt will be at level of service F, according to the last Hexagon study with the opening of the Kiku Crossing Garage, and that represents almost 700 cars. We'd also like to mention community benefits and the traffic impact fees. We'd like to see these fees be used in the neighborhoods that are impacted. Our neighborhood has over 35 dark areas, and we would like the green pedestrian street lamps on 9th Avenue between Delaware and South Amplet at 7 intersections. We'd like to see 2 street lamps per intersection and 1 at South Amplet on the north side.
Thank you, Lori. We'll need to wrap up.
Okay. We do like the Spanish Revival architecture, and we hope to see more. Thank you.
Our last in-person speaker is Adam Klafter. Adam can come to the microphone.
Good evening. I am here to speak in defense of one tree in particular, specifically the impressive Valley Oak, which has graced South Claremont Street for an unknown number of years. I will note here that Valley Oaks, native to California, have a projected lifespan of up to 600 years. If any tree sets the standard for what a heritage tree looks like, this would be one. The Arborist report for 477 9th notes that the goal of tree preservation is not merely tree survival during development, but maintenance of tree health and beauty for many years. I'm glad we agree. So what are my concerns? First, the project proposes to build right up to the sidewalk adjacent to that tree, well within the root zone. Building right up to the property line may also require temporary scaffolding over the sidewalk, which could require trimming a substantial portion of the remaining canopy on that side of the tree. The Arborist report cautions that designs which require the removal of more than 15% of the tree canopy, quote, should be avoided, though even a smaller loss will likely compromise the future health and beauty of the tree, not to mention the shade it provides to pedestrians. Grading, excavation, trenching, all activities which the project's Arborist report cautions against. Can the applicant state definitively that none of these will be taking place within a distance that might compromise this heritage tree when the building will be mere feet away? Right around the corner on 9th Avenue, the developer has chosen to highlight another smaller tree, proposing a fantastic new public space and providing ample room for that other tree to grow, showing they understand how existing landscape features can inform and improve the built environment. I wish they had taken a similar direction on the South Claremont side of the building as well. In the absence of that, it falls to the city to decide what the value of a heritage tree ordinance really is. I ask the city be vigilant as construction proceeds, consider moving the motorcycle parking as well from beneath the tree and replacing it with an expanded planting bed to provide for more permeable surface areas where it will be needed most. I should close by saying that I am not motivated to come here tonight to oppose this project, and I do not oppose it. I actually like the overall design. I've just always admired that tree. Increased housing density within walking distance of downtown and public transit is an absolute good, and in fact, I wish this building had been allowed to go taller and denser. Allowing just 50 units per acre in location like this feels far too little. Perhaps if the applicant had been allowed to build up, they would have felt freer to include more open space along the street. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
We are now moving to our Zoom speakers. Our first speaker over Zoom is Ken Chan. Ken, you can go ahead and unmute.
Good evening, members of the San Mateo Planning Commission. My name is Ken Chan, and I'm the senior organizer with the Housing Leadership Council of San Mateo County. We work with communities and their leaders to produce and preserve quality, affordable homes. I'd first like to thank staff for all their hard work in putting together the presentation on this specific item tonight. On behalf of HLC, and as highlighted in our letter to this commission, I'd like to express our support for the 477 9th Avenue proposal by the Martin Group that is before you tonight. I'd like to highlight that of the 120 new homes, 12 will be affordable for your community members who are making between 30 to 50% of the area median income. In addition, given their location, these homes can play a crucial role in enhancing your city's downtown vibrancy. They also offer your residents the option to use Caltrain for their daily commute, and most importantly, provide a secure and stable home for at least 12 of your most vulnerable community members. We urge you to support the 477 9th Avenue proposal and to move it forward to your leaders on the City Council for a decision. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ken.
Our next speaker over Zoom is Ken Abreu. Ken, you can go ahead and unmute.
Hi, thank you. This is Ken Abreu, long-term resident of San Mateo. I just wanted to say that I'm really glad to see we have the 5 two-bedroom units in the below market rate package. think it's really important to supply these multiple bedroom units for below market rate families so that we can keep families in the area. So I think good work with that, and it looks like a good project. Thanks.
Ken, are you still speaking?
Okay, our next speaker is RA. RA can go ahead and unmute.
Hi there. My concerns just center around traffic and density. I've noticed that grocery stores are being removed from mixed-use buildings such as this. Additional schools are not being built. Access to healthcare continues to be extremely limited in our areas with the increase of population. Residents in nearby neighborhoods struggle to park in front of their homes as the limited amount of spaces in these mixed-use buildings forces those occupants to park elsewhere. I agree with all the other comments regarding trees. It seems that when these buildings are being built, the trees come down and not enough are replaced. I think this building just threatens our small suburban community like it used to be back in the 80s and the 90s. And I feel like our city is slowly becoming more like a large San Francisco. And that's all my comments for tonight.
Thank you, RA.
Our next speaker over Zoom is Wendy Lane. Wendy, you can go ahead and unmute.
Thank you, and thank you, commissioners, for the opportunity to speak. I am the owner of a duplex at essentially 9th and Delaware, and I think like many of our other speakers, I am concerned about the size and specifically the height of the building. I know if you look toward downtown, 5 stories may feel very consistent with the view you're seeing, but if you look east at blocks and blocks of 1-story, 1 and 2-story residential homes, it feels very large, especially to those of us who have their property and love kind of the small town, low rise feel of the neighborhood. So that's one point. Like the others, concerned about the trees. I was a little disappointed. It feels like, gee, as long as we're meeting the letter of the law, it's all right. If we trim the open space, trim the number of trees we're putting back, that was disappointing. That's disappointing. I think it should be, I hope it's quality overall and not just, well, we can get this in or we can pay our way out of compliance. So very concerned about open space, very concerned about preserving trees or planting new trees. And mostly, finally, concerned about the parking issues that others have raised. My tenants have small children. Think about a mother juggling 3 bags of groceries and trying to hold the hand of a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old. If they can't park in front of their home, it's a safety problem, let alone for the elderly and disabled. So just a plea to be smart about the parking and be flexible, whether that's turning bicycle parking that's not used into car parking or sharing car parking. Anyway, thank you all very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Wendy.
Our last speaker is Jordan Grimes. Jordan, you can go ahead and unmute.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jordan Grimes, 19th Avenue Park. I wanted to share my support for the 477 9th Avenue project. I'm excited to see new housing downtown, although it's a shame it can't be taller and denser than currently proposed. This is downtown, and we really need to use our land more efficiently than we currently do. Regarding the trees, it really would be nice if we could keep them if possible, especially the heritage trees. That said, this project will benefit our environment far more than the trees will in a city that already has significant tree canopy. and should move forward regardless. And again, if we were able to build taller and denser and more compactly than currently allowed, we'd be in a better position to be able to preserve our open spaces. I would note that UC Berkeley's local government climate policy tool shows that increasing infill housing development actually has the greatest potential to reduce greenhouse gas emissions of any potential strategy for San Mateo. This is because the vast majority, more than 90% of the 60,000 plus people who are employed in this city commute in, many from long distances due to exorbitant housing costs that are a direct result of the severe lack of available housing we have here in the city. Lastly, I would encourage the developer to, if possible, utilize State Law AB 2097 to decrease the amount of parking in the project. Downtown is flush with parking right now between the construction of the new garage at Kiku and other existing garages. It would be fantastic, if possible, to decrease included parking and use those savings to add an additional BMR unit or two. On the whole, I completely support the project and hope you'll move it forward tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grimes.
Chair Ebnetter, we have no more public speakers.
Thank you. We will close the public comment period and bring it back to the commission. But yet, if we can have some of the public's questions answered by staff, and if the applicant would like 5 minutes to address some of their concerns also. I don't know which would be first. Should we go with the 5 minutes from the applicant? It's not mandatory, but we'd like to hear from you.
Happy to do it. We appreciate everybody's comments. Couple things I'd just like to touch on. So back to an original question on the deeper affordability level that prior to some of the public comments, our understanding of the city's requirement is that 15% of BMR units would be at the low level. We're providing it at the very low level, so it's a deeper level of affordability. Lots of great comments around trees. Trees are important to us. There's a number of different factors that go into this. 30 of the trees that exist there today impact the building footprint. Some conversation around trying to work around them a little bit more. The challenge is that we have to keep our building at 5 stories. We have the ability to go higher with the state density bonus law, but we understand through Measure Y and through a lot of early community feedback that maintaining the building at 5 stories and not going higher was important. And so that means that we need additional building footprint on the ground floor. 32 trees are being removed, 32 trees are going back in. So we are replacing trees equitably. There was another good question, comment on 3-bedroom units. This is something that we studied very closely and we tried to accommodate. One of the challenges that we ran into was maintaining our 120 units. If we modified to a 3-bedroom unit, we would end up with what I would consider a number of micro unit studios. To us, it's very important that the units are adequately sized. One thing that we were really thoughtful about with all of our layouts is a lot of people are doing hybrid work these days, and so we were really thoughtful about creating interior spaces for people to have a nice area to work from home, not just at a dining room table. So unfortunately, we weren't able to incorporate those, but we do have a large amount of 2-bedroom units. And then the last, just on the parking, this comes up a lot. Can we take more, or can we reduce the parking? Is that enough, or do we add, should we have more? We tried to come up with a really balanced approach, and through a lot of various great TDM measures, we will be promoting transit passes and the use of public transit. Given the transit-oriented nature of the site, we think that that's going to be a real benefit for residents and future office tenants and employees of them. Just in closing, a few things I'd like to touch on, just sustainability features. The project will have 68 EV charging spaces, which is a very high level, as that's becoming a more common use of transportation. 100% of the HVAC filters will be MERV 13. Through COVID, we've learned that just air quality is really important, and that is a that is a denser form of system. 100% of the building will be all electric, no natural gas, and we've committed to 100% low-flow plumbing fixtures and irrigation systems to carefully manage water use. I think just in closing, from the community benefits perspective, this project will bring approximately $15 million in economic benefits through fees and property tax revenues. We'll be bringing 200 new residents that will be shopping in the local stores throughout downtown, and then creating 100 plus permanent jobs. There'll be about 20,000 square feet of open space, not only at the ground level, but within the building. That's a very important point for our residents for mental health, wellness, holistic living. And then the last thing, it's 120 units, might seem like a small, it's 1.7% of San Mateo's housing goal, but it is slowly chipping away at that larger goal. Thank you very much, and happy to answer any questions as you guys move through the meeting.
Thank you.
Through the chair, may I ask another clarifying question for the applicant? This is a little bit in the weeds, but I read the arborist report that was included, and the arborist report notes that there's 49 trees on site and that 17 of those trees could be preserved. I think it notes that the remaining trees are either in poor or fair condition, or there's some other mitigating factors that would make those other 32 trees not suitable for preservation. And I noticed that's also the number of trees you're proposing to remove. Is that one-to-one? Are you exactly removing the trees that the arborist has noted is not suitable for preservation, or are there a few that you're removing that are suitable?
Yeah, if our landscape architect, Marco, if you could jump in, that'd be great.
Yeah, good evening. It's Marco again. So the trees that we're removing basically are only the trees that are affected by the building footprint. Either they're very close to the building footing, or they're affected by a public sidewalk that we need, we're required to put up, and also along the South Railroad track side, there's a parking alleyway. All the width and length are dictated by or requested by the Public Works, review. So all the trees that we're removing are just basically, because of the project footprint, I would say.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
That was my only question. Thank you.
I just want to clarify that, because what I'm hearing is that it's the trees that are affected by the building footprint, but some of those probably are suitable for, are in good condition. I'm not sure if you said that.
Yeah, some of them would be in good conditions, but they're of a smaller sizes. I have to read through the, go through very carefully the arborist report to figure out which one is which, but yeah, there will be some better conditions, but in the middle of the site.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Should we go to?
I'm sorry. Can I make another clarifying question as well? I have a question, because we were talking about parking, and then you talked about how the applicant talked about how many EV charging stations there will be, which is great, but they're not considered parking spaces. Those are just charging spaces. And so I'm wondering how, at least that's my experience in public settings projects I've worked on. So are EV charging stations in your project counted as parking spaces, and is that acceptable to the building department?
So the EV charging spaces it's a car stall. The electrical conduit will be installed that allows for charging stations. And then as we progress through permitting, we'll work with the building department along with, California Building Code and San Mateo Code requirements to ensure that we are in compliance.
Yeah, so I think Cal Green of the CBC, of the California Building Code, does not allow an electric vehicle charging station stall to be counted in your parking spaces. Am I correct about that?
Through the chair, my understanding is that the city zoning code requires certain parking spaces. Of course, this project is AB 2097, so the city cannot require any parking
Right.
spaces. But when parking spaces are provided, there is a mandate under the CBC on a certain percentage having to provide EV charging stations or having them EV ready as part of the project. And they do count as parking spaces. It's
They
just
do?
that they do allow for electric vehicles to be parked and charged in those spaces.
Okay. In some projects I work on, they don't count as parking spaces, but anyway.
Are they restricted only to EV? Because these will not only be restricted to EV,
They're
correct?
just to be used for charging. They're not to be used for, if you're not charging, you're not supposed to park there. So,
Through the chair, I believe that, that can sometimes occur. Like, for example, I know the Tesla supercharging station, sometimes there'll be carve-outs that those are not really parking spaces available for general parking.
Yeah.
But in this case, since it's a parking lot for the project, there's no such restriction.
yeah, that's what I was wondering, if it was related to whether or not it's for the public or just specific to the building. It's just, I think it's not necessarily the correct count if they're not considered parking spaces. It's not the correct count of parking, but I guess it's just
For planning purposes, they are considered parking spaces.
okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions of the applicant at this point? I have a couple that the public had brought up. And I know that more often than not, when this subject is brought up, it does not get answered by staff or the applicant, but the Carpenters Union were requesting local labor, and I don't know what the position is with the applicant, if they even consider that.
Just to that question, we have not selected our general contractor for construction of the project yet. Typically, that occurs after permitting. As we get to that time, we will, solicit bids to all forms of labor and make a, selection at a later date. But at this point, it's just too early to speak on that.
Okay. And to clarify parking, you don't have to legally supply any parking at all for this project?
Correct, under AB 2097.
Okay. One of the public, or Maureen had asked if there could be accessible, or have the meeting rooms as accessible to the public. Is that something that you would consider as you move this project along?
I think that we could consider it as we move the project along. Just thinking on the fly, we need to carefully manage our access control and security for our residents and office tenants, being that building is private. So that's not something we've done before. I'm not saying that that's a no. We can definitely consider it, but I think that there's a number of different implications that we'd have to really keep in mind.
Okay. And I had one other question that came up, or a suggestion that came up from Adam, and his suggestions for working with that one tree on Claremont that is dear to many people in the city, and going through a few additional steps. How is it that tree is going to be saved? It seems like a really difficult task to handle.
Yeah, I'll try to answer that question on my end. Yeah, I really appreciate those comments about saving the heritage tree. I too love the tree. And, we've been working really diligently with the ownership team, the project arborist that's on our project, along with the BD architects team, to try to kind of modify or, make sure the building footprint is set far away enough from the existing canopy of that tree. And as you can see on, if you have the planning package document, the landscape plan on sheet L5.1, it shows the existing canopy of the tree, and you can kind of see that the canopy of the tree, a majority of that crown, it's going towards the street. It's overhanging the Claremont Avenue. And we've been working with the arborists and coming up with a lot of, tree protection measures to ensure that during construction, protection fencing would be put up. Any work that is close to or under the tree canopy would need to have the project arborist on site to supervise the construction activities. There are also measures on, demolition and pre-construction treatments that's also listed in the arborist report, as well as maintenance of any impacted trees. And also any pruning activities as listed in the arborist report would need to be done by a certified arborist to ensure there is no unnecessary pruning of this beautiful tree along Claremont Street. So there are measures that we put together, to help save this tree during the construction phase.
Thank you. Were there other questions that staff would like to address for the public?
Sure, through the chair. So regarding the tree protection, the current arborist report that's seen in the plans, it's preliminary. A final updated arborist report will be required during the building permit review. And the public comments, regarding preservation of the South Claremont Street, that has been provided to the city's arborist. And so once the applicant submits an updated arborist report, we will be looking to seeing specific measures proposed that will ensure the protection and preservation of that tree on South Claremont Street. And I did want to mention that tree on South Claremont is the largest on site. And so it has an LU value based on the current fee schedule of approximately $22,000. So it's a big tree. Mm-hmm. And we'll work with the applicant to ensure that it gets protected through construction. For some of the other public comments raised about parking, the TDM and TIA specifically. So for the TDM, the minimum requirement is 25%. And in the TDM plan that was prepared, the selected required measures total up to 28.5. But staff, along with the consultant, did provide the applicant with a variety of optional measures. And if the applicant chooses to pursue some of those additional TDM measures, the project could have additional trip reduction of up to 40%. So that's been provided to the applicant as a resource. And regarding the TIA, that was prepared by our consultant, Fair and Pierce. It was some of the intersections that were selected. It was done according with the city's adopted TIA guidelines, which require selection of certain intersections within a vicinity of the project site. And also for the projects that were mentioned in the staff report, I believe it was only 4 that one of the public commenters mentioned. There were additional, so the 4 were the approved projects located near the site. But for the pending project list, there were more. That was not mentioned in the staff report, but it is in the TIA report itself. And we're happy to have, so the consultant, Fair and Pierce, is available to talk further about that if the commission would like to hear more.
Thank you, Linda. I don't think that's appropriate at this time. There was one other question that I think Lori Watanuki had brought up, or suggestion, and that was to use some of the fees generated by this project in the neighborhood. But I do not believe the city has that policy to use fees collected and targeted specifically for neighborhoods. Is that anything that is available?
Through the chair, I'll have to defer to our public works staff that's online. I'm hoping Ryan Brunmere can speak to how the traffic impact fees are typically used.
Good evening, commissioners. My understanding is that the traffic impact fees have to go towards transportation projects that have already been identified in our CIP budget. And I can't speak to the fact that they can be used specifically to a single neighborhood, but they will be used for citywide traffic improvements.
Thank you. So we'll bring it back to the commission. Are there any other comments or questions that we would need to address prior to looking to vote on this project?
Through the chair, I had one that I was saving for comments, but we're kind of rolling into this ongoing clarifying question phase, and so now I'm thinking of just pulling it back in here, and it's related to the trees. And now I lost my plans. There's two trees. I'm going to probably end up directing this at Mr. Lay. So there are two oaks along 9th that are proposed to be removed. And I apologize, I'm trying to find my plan so I can refer to the numbers. That's numbers 18 and 19?
Correct. Yeah, 18 and 19.
So 18 and 19, along with number 3, which I think is a Chinese elm, page south right along the railroad tracks in a parking space. What would it take? Well, so let me break it up, because that number 3, the Chinese elm, that's not, that doesn't appear to be in the building footprint at all. So what would it take to save that number 3 tree? Is it kind of just the loss of one surface parking space?
You're correct. The number of surface parking space there, it's required per plan review. We tried to save that tree, as if you know this, but because of that parking stall and the configuration of that drive aisle, there's no way we can have all the loading zones, all the existing trash maneuvering zone, as well as the angled parking, configured in a way that we can save that tree number 3. That is the reason why we need to remove that tree. It's because of all the constraints that we have along this alleyway.
Okay. And
it has to do with vehicular circulation.
Gotcha, thanks. And I'm going to leave it just as a clarifying question for now. So same question on 18 and 19. I know I'm looking at tree disposition plan L5.1. So I don't think that the 2 circles there are probably reflective of the actual canopy of the existing tree. So I don't know how much of the existing canopy is in conflict with the building footprint. But for 18 and 19, number 1, 19 looks like it's actually out on the sidewalk.
Yes.
18's just, what would it take to try and save number 19 and number 18?
19 would be in this public sidewalk. So, that's sort of you can kind of see where the property line is if you zoom in a little bit better. So, for us to have that public sidewalk going through to meet the Public Works A10 sidewalk standard, city standards, we just can't save that tree because that's just in the middle of the walkway. Also outside of the property line. Number 18, I would say that it's very close to the building footing structurally. So for, I don't think, I'm not a certified arborist, but I would say it is very unlikely that we can save that tree because of the structure.
Okay. Through the chair, I'll leave it just to clarifying questions at this point. I know it's round 2 clarifying, but let's save.
Through the chair, if I can respond to that or discuss on top of that, I just want to note that trees in the middle of a sidewalk or poles in the middle of a sidewalk are accessibility concern, particularly people who are in wheelchairs or people who are blind or parents pushing strollers. And so that gives me some pause, as well as that number 19 tree was rated a 2 on the condition scale of a scale of 1 to 5.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Adam, anything from you?
No, I don't have any more questions. Thank you.
Should we go ahead to comments?
I'd first like to thank staff and Linda in particular for the great presentation. Nice presentation by the applicant also. It's really encouraging to see housing starting here in the city of San Mateo. We've been in a bit of a lull lately for a variety of different reasons, and coming in at this time with the economic situation as it is, it's really nice to see some housing that is going to get started. But I also want to really thank the public for coming. All of your comments and questions were very well thought out. I hope that you feel that you've gotten answers to your questions. They may not have been the exact answers that you wanted to have, but I hope that you feel that, that your concerns have been addressed by staff and by the commission and by the applicant. Thank you all for participating tonight. So with that, yes, I would love to see if we've got a motion to move this project forward.
Can we make comments?
Oh, sure.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start. I just wanted to note a couple things. I did have a brief virtual meeting with the applicant. I just wanted to make note of that. And yes, thank you to staff and to the applicant and to the public speakers as well for a good discussion tonight. And I mean, we probably covered most of what I was going to say, but I do want to just make a couple things. I like the building a lot. I think that the response to, I wasn't at the study session, but the response to the study session is really positive, and I think it really took the building in the right direction. So I appreciate that. I like the revisions to the corners and the arched openings that have been simplified. A little bit less fussy and things go, a little less going on. I really like the corner treatment with the darker Juliet balconies, I think, kind of reminiscent of another building in San Mateo that I really like. I did talk about the fact that I think there's some units, I'm just going to put it out there, that I think that there are a few units that are, the windows are really minimal. We did talk about that, and I understand that not everybody cares about windows as much as me. And if it was up to me, I think it'd be better to combine some of those I think you called them elbow units, those interior kind of elbow units that they're kind of triangular in shape, which is sort of interesting, but they're very small and they have very little access to light and air. I think that they would benefit from being combined perhaps maybe into like a larger unit with, multiple bedrooms instead of the size that they are. I'm going to leave it at that. That's just my 2 cents about it. I think that because, as I said, I did have a conversation with the applicant, and not everybody feels really strongly about having access to windows, so long as they meet the building code requirements for egress and such. I think that was really the main thing I wanted to put out there. I think everything else has been talked about. I love the conversation about the trees. I think we all understand what a beautiful canopy that is as you go down 9th and down Claremont as well. I think a lot of care has been taken to plan for them, and I really hope that continues. And I think everyone's said that. So those are my comments. Anyway, it looks like a great project. I appreciate it.
Sure. So I'll echo the comments, thanking staff and thanking the applicant for all of the work that has gone into this project to this point, and to the public for the amount of public engagement on this project. I'll just start with some general comments, which is this is one of the rare mixed-use projects that comes before the Planning Commission where there's actually enough housing being included as part of the project to offset the amount of office that's being built. And so I just really want to applaud the applicant for doing that and for responsibly contributing to the growth of the city. The other general comment I'll make is echo comments from the public, echo my fellow commissioners that this is a really beautiful building. And I was one of the commissioners, I think, who was a little nervous when it came before us during the study session. I think I said it was Spanish Revival-ish at the time, and I don't think I've seen any project that has really taken both the public and the commissioners' comments to heart as much as you did, and really incorporated the feedback and turned around the project. I think I know this is my new favorite design that I've seen on the commission. Sorry, 435 East 3rd, my old favorite design. You've been supplanted. And I just really want to commend you for really committing to designing a building that would be a beautiful addition to the neighborhood. I'll make one teeny tiny nitpicky comment that you can take or leave, which is that the corner treatments you just referenced with the darker Juliet balconies, something about it feels odd to me. And I think it's maybe because the darker gray is a different color than the darker bronze. I will leave you with that. You can take that or leave it. I especially appreciate that you made such significant improvements to the elevation facing Caltrain, because I don't think we should treat the backs of the buildings facing the railroad like backs of buildings. There is a view shed when you go from downtown to the residential part of the city, and I think that view shed is important. I'll also note that I met with the applicant and reviewed some of these design changes prior to this meeting. Another very specific comment I'll make is that the driveway on 9th Avenue, I would urge you to take a look at that and ensure that there's some sort of safety measures in place to make sure that that driveway is safe from a pedestrian standpoint. I walk past that site multiple times a week, and that right as you get off the railroad, there is a grade. It goes downhill, and I see many kids on scooters and bikes that just fly right down that sidewalk, and so that makes me a little bit nervous. So I don't know if it's mirrors. I don't know what can be done about that intersection to make sure that cars really stop before they exit that driveway. And I think that's all of my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Martin?
Thank you, through the chair. At the risk of repeating people, a big thank you to staff, to the applicant, and definitely to the public commenters. There's a lot of people that paid a lot of attention to this project and took the time to think about it. So I appreciated hearing everyone's input, very, very much so. I will continue agreeing that I think the architecture's, it started off on the right track from the study session, I think, already, and then got better. So I really want to shout out the architect and the applicant for continuing to refine it. I think it's come, it hasn't come a long way, actually, because it was already in pretty good shape, but I think you've moved it, you've taken it the extra bit that it needed. So I don't have any real comments, just agreement on that. I have read, so I'll just say on trees, I read the conditions, I talked to staff about this, and my sense is for the most majestic oak on Claremont, which I also love, that you can never guarantee that the success of a tree unless you just don't do a project, and even then you can't really guarantee it. But I feel like the measures that are in place there are set up to go above and beyond what we would usually do, and when you take on account on top of that, the amount of awareness around the tree, I feel cautiously optimistic, and there's particular language in there about avoiding trenching. It's going to get worked out in more detail in the tree protection plan, but I feel like we're going down the right path to save that. The one part that I wince about is the two oaks on 9th that I brought up, and I don't want to have a tree in the sidewalk if it's it's an accessibility issue in terms of having a wide enough sidewalk, for one thing. But there's often trees, I don't know exactly where in the sidewalk that falls, but to Public Works staff that's listening, as well as to the applicant, if there's a way to save that one, I'm struck by the comments of public commenters of all ages, and thinking about that you only get one chance kind of to try and save the trees, and if you're not successful, I want to make sure we're doing everything we can to try. And so when I look at those two trees, I wonder if there can't be some small amount of building square footage removed for tree number, sorry, I'm going to go to the page so I can reference it for clarity. Listen to me, Tap. Tree number...
For the chair, 19.
19. Thank you.
Yeah.
19 is the one closer to the tracks, higher up the hill, closer to the edge of the building. That one's in the sidewalk. And so if there's a way to create the clear space around it and it sneaks onto the private property, like if there's it just feels like there could be a design solution there. And for 18, you might have to carve out from the building, and that might screw up the unit layout above it. So I know those aren't easy, but I want to just exhort us to try that one. And for number 3, I think I understood the landscape architect's answer as to why you need to have a certain number of parking spaces, and it just fell in one. That seems like the easiest one to save. I care more about the Oaks, but if there's any way to put one more parking space somewhere else, or any wiggle room that staff can work with the applicant on. We had a public commenter that took the time to print out, to go to the site. I went to the site, but I don't expect public commenters to necessarily go to the site and print out photos and talk about it. So I just want to make sure that one's not in the building footprint. They don't, there's, parking doesn't have to be provided per AB 2997. Is there any way to save those three? I'll stop talking about that. And those are my comments.
Great, thank you. Mr. Nugent?
Thank you. Through the chair, I think the commission is starting to sound a little bit like a broken record, because I'm also extremely appreciative of staff, the applicant, and community who have provided input. I think that this project, like Commissioner Wiggins said, started off well and has only improved. It's an excellent project. It's an extremely needed project. We are in high need of new housing, and this is a great location for that. It's so much access to everything that San Mateo has to offer downtown. It's just a perfect location. I also, as a landscape architect, it's hard to say goodbye to existing trees. I love trees. I am very appreciative of the fact that you are preserving the two oaks that you are, the two heritage oaks. I also am in agreement with Commissioner Wiggins that tree number 19, just knowing the site because I go by it quite often, tree number 19 is the one that breaks my heart a little bit to lose. Overall, I would say that in the long run, this site will actually feel perhaps more green, because the trees that are being planted along the street are going to be much more visible to passersby than a lot of the interior trees that are going to be lost. They're basically lost within the canopy away from the site. So you're actually going to eventually get a more green view from the street as the street trees that are planted, the new street trees that are planted, mature. And I want to thank the landscape architect for the work that they've done to do that. But again, if there is any way to save 19 as you go into further development of your contract documents, that would be fantastic. See if we can work with the city. Accessibility is key for our sidewalks. And it's a necessity. But again, 19 is the tree that I wish could also be saved. You got the other two, but 19. Anyways, I think this is a great project. I really look forward to seeing it be built, and look forward to the new neighbors.
Thank you, Adam. So are we now ready for a motion?
Through the chair, there was an updated BMR condition. Was there anything we need to note in terms of, oh, look at that, the staff recommendation is on screen. Through the chair, I take it as this is all we need. We don't need to note any change. Yeah.
Because, yeah, there's note as amended.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will make a motion to adopt a resolution to approve the special use permit, site plan, and architectural review and site development planning application, and find that the project is categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to Section 15332, infill development projects, based on the findings for approval and subject to the conditions of approval as amended.
Can we have a second?
I'll second.
Ashley, can we take the vote, please, Ashley?
Yes. Chair Ebnetter?
Yes.
Vice Chair Patel?
Yes.
Commissioner Nugent?
Yes.
Commissioner Wiggins,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williams.
Yes.
Passes 5-0. We'll close this item and take a 5-minute break. Which can be 10.
That's just silly. It's gaining.
Wait, okay, is it your sandwich or second cookie? That's your second cookie. Those are like the best.
They really are. How's your husband doing?
He's good. He's doing fine.
Chair Ebnetter, could you please turn on your microphone as you speak? Thank you.
We'll bring the meeting back to order. And Ashley, do you have the next item to announce?
Yes, item number 3, 616 South B Street, new 5-story commercial/residential mixed-use building, PA 2022-037.
Thank you. We will start with staff presentation, followed by applicant presentation, clarifying questions from the commission, and public comments. The applicant will be given up to 15 minutes to present, and members of the public are given 2 to 3 minutes to speak, depending on the number of speakers. The applicant may also be given 5 minutes at the end to respond to the public comments. Once the public hearing is closed, the chair may ask staff to respond to any public comments, and the commission will deliberate and render a decision. Finally, if a decision is made tonight, the decision of the Planning Commission can be appealed to the City Council within 10 calendar days.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Ebnetter and members of the Planning Commission. Summer Smith, Associate Planner, here to provide the staff presentation for Agenda Item 3, 616 South B Street, Nazareth Vista. Tonight's presentation will provide a general project overview, including location, project description, entitlements, and other relative background information. I want to start by providing an overview of the project's history. The preliminary application, which included a neighborhood meeting and Planning Commission study session, was completed on February 8th, 2022. The Commission's discussion focused on the building design, site plan, setbacks, and compliance with the city's below market rate inclusionary program. The applicant then filed the formal planning application 3 months later on May 20th, 2022. Since the study session, the project's building design, site plan, and density bonus requests have been revised, resulting in the project before you today. The project's environmental review was also completed and included various technical studies such as air quality, traffic, noise, and vibration. This item was originally planned for the November 28th meeting, but was postponed, bringing us to the December 12th meeting tonight. The project site is located at 616 South B Street, on the southwest side of South B Street between 6th and 7th Avenues, shown in the project site shown here in yellow. This map also shows Central Park and the downtown core and downtown Caltrain station, which is approximately 0.4 miles north of the project site. Here's an aerial more specifically showing the project site. The site consists of 2 parcels totaling 0.64 acres in size and has a general plan land use designation of neighborhood commercial, high-density multifamily. Consistent with its land use designation, the project site is zoned C1-3/R5, which is the neighborhood commercial zoning district with a residential overlay for mixed use. It also has a maximum FAR of 3.0. The site's existing uses consist of 2 retail buildings, Tap Plastics and Kellymore Paints. Adjacent uses include multifamily residential and commercial service to the north, a mixed-use building also owned by the applicant consisting of office, residential, and ground floor commercial uses, which is to the south, retail and commercial to the east, and multifamily to the west. The project before you, Nazareth Vista, is a 5-story mixed-use building that consists of 84,132 square feet and is 54.5 feet tall. The first floor consists of roughly 9,000 square feet of retail commercial uses and the associated parking surface lot and residential lobby. Floors 2 through 5 consist of 48 residential rental units, and of those proposed units, 15% of that base density, which is 5 units, will be made affordable at the very low income level. The proposed unit mix is 35 one-bedroom, 12 two-bedroom and 1 three-bedroom units. The property provides a 0-foot setback along 7th Avenue, South B Street, and its rear property line. And as you can see from the site plan here, a 20-foot setback along 6th Avenue. 6th Avenue provides access to the commercial parking lot, which contains 2 residential spaces and 19 commercial parking spaces. Access to the underground level of parking, which is for residents only, is provided along 7th Avenue. The below-grade garage includes 51 vehicle parking spaces. And lastly, the South B Street frontage provides access for the primary entrances to the commercial spaces. As proposed, the project requires the following planning entitlements: a site plan and architectural review for the proposed new building, a site development planning application for the removal of 6 trees total, which includes 2 protected trees. The project proposes a combination of replacement tree planting and payment in lieu fees for the displaced trees. And lastly, a tentative parcel map to merge 2 existing parcels into one. Prior to tonight's meeting, a public notice was mailed to all property owners and tenants located within a 1,000-foot radius of the project site. Placards were also placed along the 3 project frontages, and the project was publicized in the city's planning e-newsletter. The packet includes all public comments received since February of 2022, and staff has also amended the packet to include 2 additional comments received prior to the filing of the formal application. Comments were generally supportive of the new housing and flexibility in design, and there were concerns raised for tree removal, building height, and availability of parking. Staff also received general comments that weren't specific to the project, but related to the overall development of downtown and concerns for traffic congestion. Next, staff will cover state law, affordable housing, and local codes and policies that apply to the project, as well as design review and environmental review. 2 important state laws that apply to this project are the Housing Accountability Act, also known as HAA, and Assembly Bill, or AB 2097. The Housing Accountability Act applies to this project because it proposes at least 2/3 of residential floor area. The HAA limits the city from denying or reducing the density of these projects when all objective development standards are met. Additionally, the project is subject to AB 2097, which removes minimum parking requirements and parking in lieu fee payments for projects such as Nazareth Vista that are located within 1/2 mile of a major public transit stop. The project submitted a state density bonus request to increase its density. The project's site zoning overlay designation permits a maximum base density of 32 units. The applicant proposes to provide these 32 units and devote 15%, or 5 units, as affordable at the very low income level. This would entitle the project to a density bonus up to 50%, resulting in a total of 48 units. 48 units is the maximum density permitted on the site. The project may also request up to 3 concessions and unlimited waivers. The applicant did not request any incentives, but did request 5 waivers, including to eliminate the required 20-foot setback along 7th Avenue and the required 15-foot setback along the rear property line, and to remove the requirement for on-site loading facilities. Instead of providing on-site loading facilities, the loading space will be located in the city's right-of-way along the project's 6th Avenue frontage. Moving along to local codes and policies, this project was reviewed in accordance to its land use designation and zoning designation. This table, along with the table on the following slide, shows a list of applicable development standards that apply to the project. The project complies with all of the objective standards shown here, with the exception of floor area ratio, density, and setbacks, which the applicant requests to modify through the density bonus law. This table shows the development standards for loading, parking, and open space. As previously noted, the project is subject to AB 2097 and is not required to provide any parking. However, the applicant is proposing to voluntarily provide 72 parking stalls. Additionally, as mentioned earlier in the presentation, the project is not proposing any on-site loading spaces through the state density bonus law and waiver request, but instead will work with the Public Works Department to install an on-street loading space. Continuing with local planning documents, the project is subject to the downtown area plan and is located within the South Claremont sub-area. A goal of this plan is that new development should complement the traditional downtown character, while at the same time bringing contemporary elements that revitalize and energize the downtown image. The pedestrian master plan provides recommendations to improve the public realm with minimum sidewalk widths and streetscape improvements. As shown here, the project provides the minimum 16-foot sidewalk width along its 6th Avenue frontage, but not along its South B Street and 7th Avenue frontages. However, it should be noted that state density bonus waivers and the zoning code, both of which supersede the pedestrian master plan, only require a minimum setback of 20 feet along 6th Avenue, which the project does meet. Additionally, the project provides several pedestrian amenities within its 6th Avenue setback, including seating, bike racks, and landscaping. Lastly, the bicycle master plan lays out proposed bicycle network of various bicycle lanes, paths, and routes. Specific to the subject property, the plan calls for a buffered bicycle lane, which is Class 2, along the project's South B Street frontage, which consists of pavement markings that provide additional horizontal separation between vehicles and bicyclists. Please note, however, that during the initial implementation of the B Street pedestrian mall, City Council determined that walking would be the priority transportation mode for the pedestrian mall and directed staff to evaluate other streets to place the proposed bike facilities. Implementation of bikeways on B Street are on hold until there's a clear path forward on the bike network in this area. But nevertheless, the project has been designed in anticipation of the bike lanes and will not preclude installation of them in the future. Shown here is a design reviewed at the project study session back in February 2022. The commission was generally in support of multifamily uses, but expressed several concerns about the need for a better balance between the contemporary building design and the community's expectation that the property's design be more reflective of the forms, material, and design of the adjacent downtown fabric. Since the study session, the project has gone through a redesign and now proposes a more transitional style by incorporating a mix of traditional and contemporary architectural elements. These elements include wood siding with metal accents and rectangular building massing with prominent building corners consisting predominantly of glass. The final building design appears more refined and compatible with the surrounding buildings when compared to the pre-application design. This can be seen through its massing, articulation, and exterior materials and color palettes. The applicant has also incorporated recommendations from the Planning Commission and the city's design review consultant, Larry Cannon, including revising the articulations at the corner and incorporating additional landscaping along South B Street and 6th Avenue, in addition to the other revisions shown here on this slide. Now we come to environmental review. The city reviewed the project in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act, otherwise known as CEQA, and has determined that the project meets the criteria to be categorically exempt pursuant to Section 15332 as an infill development project. Supporting evidence is provided in a categorical exemption memo prepared by the city's environmental review consultant, David J. Powers and Associates. The project, as conditioned, would not result in any significant effects or unusual circumstances related to traffic, noise, air, or water quality. As part of the environmental review, staff's transportation consultant, Kittleson and Associates, prepared a transportation impact analysis, or TIA, to analyze the project's impact to traffic. The TIA found that the project does not result in any impacts to vehicle miles traveled, since it meets the city screening criteria of being in a high-quality transit area. In addition, the TIA analyzed the project's level of service and found that the project does not result in any adverse impacts to level of service. The project does, however, result in net new AM and PM peak hour trips, as well as an increase in average daily trips. Even so, the analysis found that the project will not cause significant impacts in operating year and cumulative conditions for traffic volumes, and these conditions account for the project in addition to nearby approved projects and pending projects. Given the project's increase in average daily trips, the project is required to implement a transportation demand management plan for a minimum 25% trip reduction. And this is under the City-County Association of Governments regional requirements. The city's consultant, Steer Group, has prepared a TDM plan that describes the project's required measures. And this includes street design to encourage bike and pedestrian access and transportation initiatives that include annual transit subsidies and passes. Staff also wanted to highlight the 2 public comments that have been received since the publishing of the packet. They include support for the project design and concerns over street parking during construction. And prior to concluding with staff recommendation, as the project that went before me, I just want to note that there will be an edit to the proposed resolution to add a new condition of approval as shown here. This COA is proposed to ensure that the applicant is aware of the requirements of the city's inclusionary program before officially entering into an agreement with the city's housing division. Staff would include this edit to the resolution prior to signature should the commission adopt the staff recommendation with this new condition. And with that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution to approve the project's site plan and architectural review, site development planning application, and tentative parcel map, and find that the project is categorically exempt from CEQA based on the findings and subject to the conditions of approval, as amended. This concludes staff presentation, and questions are welcomed, and the applicant is also here to provide their presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Summer. Is the applicant ready to present?
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. My name is Evan Sokolowski with Architect, the architect on the project. Happy to be here before you again, and this time with a project that we think actually improves the job housing balance. So it's good to be here. Summer's done such a good job on her presentation. Hopefully mine won't take as much time, and my client has asked us to move it along, so I'll go through our presentation rather quickly. So getting started, just a little bit about Nazareth Enterprises. They're a local developer headquartered here in San Mateo. Lots of projects, both commercial, retail, and residential throughout Northern California. Nazareth Vista will be their 3rd large project in San Mateo, as well as a number of other smaller projects. So we're really excited about this. Summer highlighted where the project is, so I don't really need to go into that too much, as well as the uses. Kelly Moore and Tap Plastics. Again, this is primarily a multifamily residential project. It is 48 units, the highest density we can get, and only a minor amount of commercial space, and that being retail. As was noted, we are not required to provide any parking, but because of the type of project that Nazareth wanted to produce, they elected to provide in excess of 1 parking space per unit. They felt that was the market they wanted to attract to provide that type of parking amenity on site. It's primarily a mix of 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms, with 1 3-bedroom unit included, with the very low rate BMR units. The open space we're providing, we have significant open space both on the 2nd level as well as on the 5th level that far exceeds the requirements, but is also a very nice amenity in a downtown urban project like this, elevated space that's secure. We have been working on this project for a while, and as you can see from the images, it's changed quite a bit. We really enjoyed working with staff and getting the back and forth and input that we really feel that the project before you has improved greatly, and we're excited to move forward in this process. We did make a lot of changes, and the design consultant recommendations as well as staff, some of which included stepping the upper level back to provide a little bit more of the base, middle, and top. Additional transparency, since the pedestrian level is always critical, so there's a lot of visual opportunity into the retail space on ground level facing B Street. Also, understanding our neighbors, worked hard to make sure up at our open space we provide screening both for their privacy and the adjacent properties' privacy as well. Just to highlight the site plan, pretty simple. You can see the 2 narrow frontages on 6th Avenue and 7th Avenue with the large setback on 6th Avenue with some of the open space Summer mentioned. The retail frontage is along B Street, opportunity for multiple tenants, obviously like anything, perhaps hoping for 1, but that's market driven. We do have retail parking up on the off of 6th Avenue and our secured residential parking that enters off of 7th Avenue. This is just showing the parking down below. Very clean, simple parking, and the benefit, again, by having more than 1 space per unit, they're able to be associated directly with units, and so assigned parking as needed. You can see it kind of demised up to 3 tenants potentially on the 1st level. The main residential entry is off of 7th, highlighting that, so it is a focal point there. And then going up, as you move up, it's 4 levels of residential. This shows the amenity space on the 2nd level. We're also including a exercise room and a community room, and then a mix of units as you move up. Nearly all of the units have private balconies. Technically, because of size, there's a couple of them that don't count, but they still have private balconies. Again, a nice amenity, and as we develop the units, they're reasonably sized for San Mateo, but one of the things that we were able to include, again, understanding the current climate, is a little den area, I guess, work area in the units for those who work from home remotely. Just again, the 4th level and the 5th level, again, additional amenity space up on the 5th level. You can see the buildings are set back around with the walkway is covered up on that 5th level. And again, additional step back up on the 5th, providing that accent. Just to go through a few of the views, this is the view from 7th. You can see the accent at the residential entry, highlighting that in particular, and then the predominantly glass corners and the rhythm with the massing and the wood accents along B. This is from the 6th Avenue corner, and you can see the setback there, opportunity for some additional landscaping, seating, and a public amenity as well on that frontage. Just kind of highlighting one of the retail entries, the opportunity at the corner, and then the residential entry along 7th. Some of the amenity space on both the 5th on the left side and the 2nd level on the right side, the outdoor space there. And then an aerial view showing the view back at the residential building. You can see how it steps back at both ends. So although the 1st level, as mentioned, is a 0 lot line, the upper levels, all the upper levels are set back a minimum of 16 feet and then further back in the center. Sustainability, some of this was mentioned, but we do have the PV panels, the short and long-term bike parking, showers. There will be no natural gas, and it will be built to LEED Silver equivalency. So with that, we look forward to any questions, and we will be available for those as needed.
So we'll bring it to the commission for questions of both staff and applicant. Adam, would you like to start?
Sure. Through the chair, my question is regarding the retail on the ground floor. Is there any? One of the things that I know some new development projects have trouble filling the retail, even when it's desired and required by a city. Is there any steps that the city or the applicant is going to take to ensure that they are successful in getting tenants that can pay the lease that is required for this new project?
Through the chair, I believe our applicant team can answer that question for you all.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Mick Wood. I'm the construction manager for Nazareth, and sorry I look like this. I came straight from work. We already have several tenants looking at the space, one of which is a healthcare a dentist that's looking at taking well over half of the space, which he's committed to that. He's in a current building that we have at this moment. We don't think it's going to be a problem to fill it at all with long-term tenants.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was my only question.
Great. Who's next? Martin.
Through the chair, I think a couple questions, probably for the architect about the building. There is the mechanical equipment on the roof. I'm going to say my clarifying questions, a lot of them were spurred on by reading the public comment and by talking to a resident of the Gramercy. So I'm kind of asking some questions that came up. The mechanical equipment on the roof comes with the screen around it, and that sort of extends the height of the building in a way. Does that equipment have, and I know part of it's solar, and you don't need to screen the solar on the roof. I don't think it probably doesn't stand up very high, but for the remaining mechanical equipment, is there anything that can be low profile or doesn't have to go on the roof to like extend the height higher?
Unfortunately, obviously, with urban projects like this, without a lot of ground level space, the roof is primarily where mechanical equipment is located. We are doing everything we can to make sure the profile of that equipment is as low as possible. Obviously, it will be fully screened from any adjacent view. We just physically do not have a lot of room, as well as, and not just because of mechanical equipment, really doesn't go well in amenity space either. And that's really about the only other places we have on site to locate things. So, but we are trying to minimize any height and minimize any screening needed.
Okay, thanks. A couple more. I guess I'm going down the building, top to bottom. So below the roof is the top floor, level 5. Those are, that's an outdoor walkway to the units that's covered, right?
Yes.
Your 1 3-bedroom is at the furthest end from the elevator. Was that sort of just the way it came out, or thinking that if that's a family unit and you're dragging kids around, wouldn't it be nice if that was closer to the elevator?
We looked at things a number of ways. Obviously, there's pros and cons to each. Proximity to the elevator is one, but at the same time, there's also the level of activity and noise. Perhaps, oftentimes, the units further away from the elevators are a little more desirable, being that was one of the larger units. We chose that other corner specifically for some of the privacy, as well as just some of the access on that side.
Okay, gotcha. And something I was curious about, it looks like in the basement there's secured parking for the 3-bedroom. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, that's an opportunity for just specialized parking for that unit itself. That was something we wanted to show at a planning level, whether that gets implemented or not. That was something that, again, Nazareth is looking at this as these as a little more boutique units. That's why they're providing the more ample open space as well as parking for all, and that was another level of service they wanted to provide with that unit.
Okay. One, I think, sorry, 2 more. Now I'm down on the ground floor.
Okay.
In the packet, and I just noticed this afternoon, I didn't even email it to staff. There's two colors of glass on the retail frontage. There's like clear glass and like a blue tinted glass. And just thinking about activation at the street level, I couldn't figure out where the blue tinted or sort of, it looked kind of opaque glass was going to go on the facade.
None of the glass is opaque.
Okay.
It's all vision glass. It's just really accenting the architecture, and I believe the ground level glass, especially at the retail, is the clear glazing. We understand the goal for the transparency and the activity, and so that's why that retail frontage is the clear glazing. I believe the blue tint is in the residential units above.
Gotcha. Okay. And last one, it came up in talking to neighbors. Do you anticipate that employees of the retail park in the off-street parking area?
Well, as Summer mentioned, obviously TDM plan the goal is to reduce trips. The parking that we are providing on the retail side of it meets the city's standards as far as for our size. So there is an expectation that there would be some employees parking in that, as well as meant for visitors and guests of the retail. And then later in off hours, likely guests of the residents could use that as guest parking.
Okay. And for residential, you don't, I guess, 48 units, I don't know if you have any residential employees?
No, there wouldn't be necessarily anybody on site full-time that would be parking there. As noted, Nazareth does have other properties around, so they do have people in San Mateo who would be coming to the site.
Thank you. I think those are all of my clarifying questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair, if I could just add on to that. So currently the plans show the dark blue tinted at the retail frontage area, but that is something that could be corrected and modified at the building permit stage.
Thank you. I'll speak out of turn and express a preference for clear, very clear glass for maximum activation of the ground floor. Thanks.
Thank you.
To the chair. I just have one question. The staff report notes that the ground floor is designed for 3 commercial or retail tenants, but it sounds like from your presentation, you're pretty set that it would be retail. I just wanted to confirm, is it retail on the ground floor for sure, or is there possibility it could be commercial or office uses too?
Right now, as Mick mentioned, they're looking at the potential for a medical office type of use on part of it. Since the use is allowed, obviously we're targeting retail, but obviously our goal is to make sure it's leased and long-term lease. So we appreciate the flexibility, but we understand retail is a desire.
Okay, great, thank you. That was my only question.
I was just going to tag on to that. So medical is allowed under retail? Is that what you were saying just now?
Through the chair, office uses, which could include medical doctors or dentists to a certain size, would be allowed in this zoning district.
I have a question that's really more of a comment, but I'll start out with it a question and later it'll be a comment. So it's kind of, I don't know if it's minor, but when I look at the corners, I really like how the corners have improved, but there's still this, interesting, really glassy element on each corner, and those are bedrooms, and people are going to have their shades down a lot. I mean, again, windows are kind of like my little pet peeve thing. And did you take a look at like making that one of the public space, like a living room, dining room space, and if that was feasible on those corners, on those 2 corners?
And like you said, windows are kind of a unique challenge. It's sometimes we find where we want to provide as many as we can versus narrowing them and where you put them. We looked at a number of different layouts. We felt focusing that, and the types of units we had, getting those bedrooms on that corner, we felt worked very well for the overall layout, especially with the sizes of the units. We will be providing window treatments, but our experience
is those still provide natural light in and vision out as well quite a bit.
Yeah, it seems like that window, that design of those windows is more, like would really be effective in a living space where, particularly if there was a view. But anyway, we can talk about that later. That's my clarifying question.
Oh, thank you, Margaret. I just have a couple myself. Is the parking unbundled?
Yes.
Great. What is the wood surface material on the exterior of the building? Is it a manufactured material or is it actually wood?
It's a manufactured material.
Okay. And for your trash rooms, you have 2 bins, or 2 chutes, I believe. And I'm assuming one is for garbage and one is for recycling. How do the tenants manage their green waste?
We have a trash management plan that we've worked out with American Trash, which is part of the project, which we developed further. I don't have the exact answer on that, but that is, all 3 streams of waste are included in the servicing of the building.
Great. And the stormwater collection system that you are using, it is to capture stormwater only that falls on the building and your site, correct?
We do have our civil engineer on the call. I will let him speak to it.
Okay.
Yes, that is correct. We are only treating the stormwater within our property line.
Okay. And since we are now experiencing different types of weather patterns with severe rain, atmospheric rivers, have any models been used to show how this system will be able to accommodate those types of events?
So we used the design storm for stormwater treatment per C3 provision to size and meet the requirement. We haven't done any new modeling for the rainfall event or atmospheric rain event that we've been having, but we did design it per the design guideline and meeting the C3 requirement.
Okay. Thank you. Those are my questions for now. Should we go to the public for questions, please?
Did Adam have any?
Yes, Chair Nutter, currently we have one in-person commenter. If anybody on Zoom wants to comment, please raise your hand. Anybody else in the public who wants to comment, please fill out a speaker slip. We're just going to go to our in-person commenter, Jay Anthony. You can come up to the microphone.
Esteemed members of the San Mateo Planning Commission, my name is Jay Anthony, a field representative for Carpenters Local 217 here in San Mateo County. I speak to you today as a carpenter, representing the hopes and aspirations of my fellow workers regarding the 616 South B Street project. This project holds the promise of not just being another construction endeavor, but a pathway to a more equitable and prosperous community. We advocated for a responsible contractor, one that understands the value of paving a livable wage. It is not only about constructing buildings, but ensuring that the skilled hands behind them can support their families and enjoy a decent quality of life. Let this project stand as a statement to fair compensation for honest work. Healthcare isn't just a benefit, it's a necessity. We urge you to consider a contractor committed to providing healthcare coverage. A healthy workforce is more productive, one, and by prioritizing the well-being of our workers, we build a foundation for a stronger community. Our apprenticeship programs are not just about jobs, they're about careers. We see the 616 South B Street project as an opportunity to uplift our workforce from poverty to the middle class. A responsible contractor invests in the future by providing training and opportunities for growth, creating a skilled workforce that contributes to the vitality of our community. In the eyes of carpenters, this project isn't just about structures, it's about people. Let the 616 South B Street project be a symbol of responsible business practices, setting a standard for the industry. We look forward to a project that not only builds structures, but uplifts the lives of workers, creating a pathway to a brighter future for all. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Chair Bennett, we have no more public commenters.
We'll close the public comment period and bring it back to the commission for deliberation. Adam.
Okay. I think I just want to say overall, this is a great project, and I strongly want to thank the applicant and the architecture team for the work they've done since our study session. I feel like the project fits better with our city, and it's going to be a beautiful place to live. I do appreciate Commissioner Williams' comment about the bedrooms at the corners, and fully understand where she's coming from. I personally would have preferred to see the kitchen flipped with the bathrooms and the bedroom on the corners be the living room, at least looking on the right-hand side, the 6th Avenue side corner, the 6th Avenue. So I would ask that the applicant consider revising those units just to, better utilize the windows that are so amply provided on the corners. But overall, I think this is a fantastic project. I love what you're doing here. I look at the outdoor space provided for the residents, and it looks like a wonderful place to be. I'm really appreciative of the landscape architecture again in this, and would love to live in a place like this. So those are my comments for this. I wish you Godspeed.
Thank you. Martin.
Through the chair, thank you. I was not on the commission when this came to study session, so I was just reviewing the previous design and want to say thank you for making the design changes. I think it feels much more contextual now, so that's an important change. I have one design comment I'm just curious if other commissioners agree with, but I don't think it's not major. When I look at both corners, 6th and B and 7th and B, that sort of prominent corner piece rising up, it feels like it's lacking a top to me somehow when I look at it. I just wonder if I was the only one that felt that way. Either like sort of an element on the top floor at the top of the window, or just the cornice piece itself. It feels like there's been great architectural work on all the central sections of the facades, and I like the step back at the top floor and the emphasized shading elements. That there's so much that I like about it, and those two things feel like something wasn't quite right there. It could just be me. I definitely agree with Commissioner Williams' observation, so I won't repeat it other than if that was my bedroom, I would just have the shades drawn all the time, and I have these ones at home that can come up from the bottom or down from the top, and maybe if there's a window treatment in there that allows people to kind of screen the bottom and still see out of the top, then I think it would be, to me, it's be better to prevent that area just being, closed curtains all the time on what ought to be a really spectacular corner, And there was one thing I meant to ask as a question I forgot, and I'm just going to make it as a comment because it came up when I was talking to someone that lives in the Gramercy building who was lamenting the loss of their views. They had views all the way out to the bay across here, and I'm sure those are great views, and I would not want to lose them either. People can't live in views, and so this is what it takes to get new housing in San Mateo, walkable to transit, and this building's shorter than those buildings around it, or it's certainly, I think, even with the roof parapet, still shorter than those buildings around it. So I feel like it's fitting in pretty well. But the other thing they brought up was the setback on the rear, and so I know at the ground level that's being requested as a waiver, or maybe as a concession, the rear setback not. But on the upper levels, it is still there, and so I think the building is, it's got a generous step back setback on the sixth side. It still has the above levels, and so I feel like it's doing a good job of trying to fit in with the neighbors while obviously densifying the block and bringing new homes. So those are just kind of general comments, small things on the architecture, but I think it feels really calm. It feels really, I bike past here like all the time, and I think it'll be really nice to go past. So I think it's a very nice project. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think there's going to be a lot of broken record tonight, so I will also echo Commissioner Wiggins and Commissioner Nugent thanking staff and the applicant for all of the time that's gone into this project and for the design revisions since the last time this project came before us. I agree that it's greatly improved and fits much better within the surroundings. I will also highlight this project. We've got 2 in one night of a mixed-use project that is building more housing than the jobs that will be created. And so again, want to commend this applicant as well for helping San Mateo address our housing crisis and building much-needed housing for our community. I noticed that there is fewer parking spaces provided now than when this project came before us at the study session. I think at the study session there were 105 proposed, and now there's 72. I'm personally not worried about this, and I actually think that's something we brought up at the study session, is we kind of felt like it was a lot of parking for the number of units. And I know one of my fellow commissioners brought up the question of where would retail employees park. And as I said at the study session, we've got the new Kiku Crossing parking garage 3 blocks away that will have 526 public parking spaces. So I think we've got a lot of parking supply in the vicinity of this project, so I'm not too concerned about that. I will echo Commissioner Williams and say, looking at these renders, those corner units are so attractive. Floor to ceiling windows are so rare. I think that would be such a fabulous amenity for like a living room, for a bedroom. I feel like the shades would just be drawn the entire time. And so I would echo Commissioner Nugent's suggestion of trying to modify those corner units to make that be the living room space. Otherwise, I think, that glazing is just going to be opaque with curtains the entire time. And I think it would be an amazing view from a living room to be able to look out into the neighborhood and the community. And those are all of my comments, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I was on the Planning Commission when this came before us for a study session, and the project is greatly improved, so I really appreciate all the work that's gone into fine-tuning it and creating a really attractive building. I think the layout of the units is really well thought out. They're generous, and there's a variety of spaces for either, family or roommates for work or study, as you said, in addition to the living areas and bedrooms and bathrooms. There's plenty of storage and outdoor access for all of it seemed like all of the units. I'm not sure which one didn't have it, but outdoor access to the balconies. So I really thought the units were very generous and very attractive. But so getting to the corners of the building, I do feel like it will be a shame if we have these elements on the left and the right that are just, covered with, whatever, mini blinds or whatever they are. And I almost would be willing to say if the floor plan doesn't work to to flip them and create those as like living spaces. I would rather see those corners be something more subdued, like punch window openings instead of floor to ceiling, features. Because I just think, I don't know, you're going to look into people's unmade beds or there's just going to be the window shades down. So, I mean, I think it could still be a really attractive building with even just a window that didn't go to the floor level. But it's obviously a completely different element at that point. I feel like there's like a couple things I would, sort of, along with that kind of and again, these are just my thoughts. I don't know if it's, if you're going to tweak it or not any further, but, I'm not sure about the diagonal. Well, I guess the corners are even more dramatic because the first floor has this truncated diagonal element below it, and so they're overhanging. So all of that makes for these dramatic corners. And if you went to like a punched opening above, that would still work, even though the corners are diagonally truncated. I really appreciate how one of the comments that was made previously was that 6th Avenue is sort of a gateway into Central Park. It's like the street that goes to the point where, the pathway then goes through the park. And so I appreciate that you pulled that side back a bit and gave us some more, pedestrian room to create a plaza, but also just, kind of views to the park. And it'll be a big improvement from what's there. I almost felt like the residential entry, I mean, there's a case to be made for it to be on 7th, where it's sort of maybe more private, you might say, but it almost made me think that like, oh, it could be over there on 6th Avenue side where it's, an entry into this very nice, building as you, have this kind of pathway to the park, but it's on the 7th Avenue side. So anyway, I guess I just started tweaking it a lot in my brain and, seeing what could be done. But that's not such a big concern of mine. It's more the glazing into the bedrooms that seems incongruous. It seems like unnecessary. But there's so many other positives, I would say, about the building that I ultimately think it's a great project. And I'm just looking to see if I have any other comments. I would just say that was my main comment. Everybody else had good comments about the parking and the number of units. Appreciate that they're larger and more multi-bedroom units. I guess that's about it. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I support everything my fellow commissioners have said. Great comments. And to me, it's a fantastic project in a great location. What I'm most excited about is the outside spaces. They look really great, and they'll give people a great opportunity to spend time outside, but still kind of in a private space. Looks like a fantastic design. I think the project has come a long way from the first time that we saw it, and kudos to the team for putting this package together. It's going to work. It's going to bring us some housing, and I like the fact that this owner is getting into this project or pushing this project at this time, because we've got so many projects that have stalled recently, and it's really encouraging to see people take the risk to move forward in this economic time. Thank you very much, Summer and staff, for your presentations. Do we have any other closing comments before we look at the recommendation, or are we ready? Okay, because last time I jumped a little bit too quick. So,
Through the chair.
Sure.
I just want to comment that I would be sad to lose the floor to ceiling windows on the corners unless, something could come and replace it as such a statement. So, I just wanted to say that. So I'm hoping that the architect and the applicant can find a solution that makes the most of those wonderful light-filled spaces.
thank you, Adam. I was going to not talk about the windows, yet it does seem that for them to be bedrooms is not the ultimate use. Usually you want your kitchens and your living areas to have access to outside views and sun, and to use them as bedrooms doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but obviously the architect and the teams thought that that was the best use, and we'll see what we end up with. Can we see the resolution, please? And does somebody want to move this forward?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution to approve the site plan and architectural review, site development planning application, and tentative parcel map, and find that the project is categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to Section 15332 infill development projects, based on the findings for approval and subject to the conditions of approval as amended.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Can we take a vote, please? Ashley?
Yes. Chair Nutter?
Yes?
Vice Chair Patel?
Yes.
Commissioner Nugent?
Yes.
Commissioner Wiggins?
Yes.
And Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Passes 5-0. Thank you. We'll close this item and move on to announcements.
All right, thank you. I have a few announcements through the chair. First of all, I wanted to share that this is our final meeting of the year. So 2023, it's almost at a close here. In 2024, we expect the first meeting in January, which would be on January 9th, to be canceled. But we are looking at two meetings in late January. The first one would be on January 23rd. We expect a study session item and possibly a land use public hearing. And then we are requesting a special meeting for the general plan. I'll wait till folks have cleared the room. All right, so for the special meeting on January 30th, I believe we have 4 commissioners who are confirmed. So we have quorum. And Chair Ebnetter, if you could send us a confirmation.
I'll confirm right now I'll be at the meeting.
Okay, thank you. We have the full house. And that meeting will start at 6 p.m., I anticipate, because that would be the public hearing for the general plan as well as the final environmental impact report associated with the general plan. Zach and I will be reaching out to individual commissioners to schedule some meetings in mid-January to help you prepare for those sessions. We anticipate releasing the final EIR as well as the general plan around that time, so we'd be happy to meet with you individually to discuss. Let's see, on the housing element, we have resubmitted to HCD and are trying to schedule some time to discuss it further with them. This will be our third submittal to them. We had rescinded our second submittal because we had received some preliminary comments that we worked through, so that part is also ongoing, and we're also actively engaging with the housing advocates and other commenters that have submitted recent comments on the housing element. The objective design standards were adopted by the City Council on November 20th, so we are moving forward now with implementation. We did get direction from Council to look at a higher threshold for streamlining projects that met objective design standards, so staff has started doing that research and anticipates, going back to Council sometime in 2024. On the staffing front, we are excited.
Could you repeat that? I was getting
sorry.
distracted. What did you just say would go back in 2024? The last piece I just got distracted by.
That's going to be the streamlining effort, Margaret. So, or Commissioner Williams, we had adopted, or the council adopted code amendments that allow for projects up to 25 units that meet objective standards to be approved at staff level. And council suggested that we look at increasing that further based on the type of projects that we get in the city, and also do some research on what other cities would allow. On the staffing front, we are excited to share that we have 2 new assistant planners join our team in these last couple of weeks, Elizabeth Gagliardi and Louise Caro. And we are actively recruiting for 2 principal planners at the moment, so some changes happening in the planning division. And I'm sure you saw the news announcement for our former director, Christina Horaceberger, who has been appointed as the assistant city manager. I understand that 21 Elements is planning some more planning commissioner trainings for next year, for the first of which may be in January. So as soon as we get more information from 21 Elements, I'll pass it on to you all so that you can register. Those are all of staff's updates. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything from the commissioners to share with us?
Actually, through the chair, I just had a question. Is the special session on the 30th of January, is that anticipated to start at 7 or 6?
I would expect it to start at 6 p.m., Commissioner Nugent. So if you have conflicts, please let us know. It is a special.
No.
Okay.
Just need to put it in my calendar.
Yes, I would say 6 p.m. start time. Thank
Okay.
you.
Great. With that, we'll close the meeting. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.